just to be sure. I mean, the thought brought chills down my spine. Imagine if you're working under there and the freaking thing dropped. I mean, you'd literally never recover from that. In this episode, I get onto sanding that engine bay and putting a nice new coat of paint on that. I get stuck into giving that engine a really good nitty-gritty clean in all the little nooks and crannies of the engine. I also get onto trimming all of that spray-on insulation where it's not wanted to leave room to get all the timber work bolted on later on. Yeah, so I thought I'd better explain also why the engine's suspended up in the air and not in the engine bay where it kind of should be. So I had to take off the stuffing box because the prop shaft was jammed in the prop log. In order to get the shaft out, it was just a lot easier to get the motor out. And there were two reasons actually. It wasn't simply to get the prop shaft out, although that was very important and pretty much the main priority. The second reason was, which I had planned to do, is to take the motor out so that I could actually paint, give like a nice final fresh paint coat to the engine bay. It is okay, like I could have got away with it, but the bottom, some timber falling. The bottom line was it's just so much easier to do now with the engine out. As I say, it's just easier with the engine out before I put the fuel tank in, which goes there. The fuel tank goes behind the motor. Here's the very cool custom engineered prop log. But yeah, the engine bay is not as bad as I thought it was going to be, but it really will not take long in the scheme of things to give it a fresh lick of paint, and I'll give it 2 coats of PU 400 white, and that'll make it look really great, but also make it easier to wipe up any spills. So that's why the engine is suspended above that, and it's so cool, so easy to do, even in the future should the need arise. But just because I'm sort of out of the swing of doing things, I'm a little bit overcautious. Probably if I hadn't had the big break, I wouldn't have bothered going for a backup set of ropes. So basically I've got the chain block doing the work, and I put 2 bits of timber, not 1. Just that was a backup. I've even got a backup on the short bits of line, like the blue there is super strong stuff, but I thought I'll put the white one as well just as a backup. And then I've got, yeah, like both sides I've actually suspended lines from the top around the engine just to be sure. I mean, the thought brought chills down my spine. Imagine if you're working under there and the freaking thing dropped. I mean, you'd literally never recover from that. So hence all the handiwork of suspension by way of multi-lines, but better be safe than sorry. have anticipated that. As I had mentioned in the previous episode, I had started to drill holes through the framing and the beams in order to house the flexi tube for the electrical cable. So here in these pictures you can see those holes. And of course, as with everything that you do with steel, if you expose the steel, it needs to be painted. That's what I'm doing here. What I'm doing here is trimming all of that spray-on insulation where it's really not wanted. Of course, when it's sprayed on, it just indiscriminately goes anywhere, and I really mean that. It goes everywhere. So what I'm doing here is clearing it where I will need to bolt the timber battens and also the bulkheads themselves to the framing. It was easy work, and as you can see in this episode, I'm doing a range of things. It is so rewarding and so comparatively easy and enjoyable to be doing different things, even some on the same day. You know, I can really tell that my nervousness is finally starting to come down making these videos. I'd really like to hear from people, so please feel free to leave comments and get in touch. Also, please feel free to share these videos with anybody that you think might get something out of them. Thanks very much.